All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about winning words, and this is going to be a bit of an interactive discussion. It may be worth your while to have a notepad handy because I don't have any slides to put up on the screen. We're just going to be talking about some of the phrases that we use and we've had success with. Some, excuse me, there I go coughing. Um, some of the language that is proven to be successful. And I'm relying on a little bit of Chris Voss in Never Split the Difference. If you haven't read that book, that's a great book. And if you haven't heard him talk, he is a great speaker. There's YouTube videos out there. And then the other book I'm relying on is Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents by, I think it's Philip Jones. Let me see here. Yeah, Philip Jones, Joshua Smith, and I don't know who the Mackin guy is, but if you just plug into Amazon or wherever Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents, Phil Jones also has Exactly What to Say as his flagship book, and then has refined it with some real estate agents for real estate agents. And then, of course, I'm relying on some of my practical experience of screwing up things that I have said over the years and refining what we say. So Jenny's in the room with us. She and I heard Phil Jones at the Gold Team Recharge last fall, I think it was. And he was very good. And of course, he sounds great because he's British. That always makes everything sound better. But he had some great things to say. So some of his language that is always good, some of these winning words or phrases. The first one that I like is when you're presenting an idea to someone or sending them a house that you don't know if it fits their criteria, that doesn't fit the criteria they've set for themselves, but you know that it might be good for them. I'm not sure if it's for you, but this house looks really intriguing. I'm not sure if it's for you, but maybe you want to talk to our in-house lender for a second opinion, right? So that usually piques their interest, right? Because they don't want to be left out, right? I'm not sure if it's for you. We're like, well, why wouldn't it be for me? Why are you telling me if it's not for me, right? So now they have this buy-in kind of thing. So that's a good one. And of course, with all these, practice them, practice the delivery, tweak it to make it sound a little bit more like your natural speech patterns, and don't be afraid to screw up, kind of thing. Because I've spent 20 years screwing up and I'm still here. Another one that is my favorite, and I will do this a lot with other realtors, especially if I have a fun and funky property coming on the market. And I've often talked about this phrase, and I stole it from BNI, Business Networking International, a few years back, or maybe almost 20 years ago. Who do you know, right? Who do you know who might be interested in this ramshackle dump of a property that I have coming up in Whaleyville, right? Who do you know who is reliable for driveway installation? That was a question we had come up recently here around the office. Right? So that who do you know kind of thing. Even for referrals, who do you know who might be interested or thinking about buying or selling a house in the next 6 months? You know, who do you know?
Because that puts the ball in their park on, they have to answer either nobody or, oh, yeah, or it might spark.
So, and that's a good point because we have the who, what, where, when, why, and how questions, right? If you ask someone any question beginning with those words, who, what, where, when, why, and how, the answer absolutely cannot be yes or no. It's not a logical response. Who do you know? Who? No. That they cannot physically
No
answer
one.
the
Yeah,
who,
right.
as no. So that forces them to give you a more descriptive answer. It's like, yeah, I can't think of anyone. Okay, thank you. Right. Who do you know? Oh, well, I got a cousin that does that kind of work. Let me get their number and see if they can help you. But any of those who, what, where, when, why, or how questions is always going to elicit a little bit more robust response than simply yes or no, even if it's I don't know. Um, other winning words and phrases. What is your experience? Right? Home inspection time. What is your experience with fixing up things around the home? Right? How important is it to you to have the electrical fixed? Seeing a since you're an electrician, you'd be surprised. I've had electricians blow gaskets over electrical issues in the house and they want it all fixed. I'm like, you're an electrician. Why wouldn't you want to fix this to your standard instead of farming it out? Let's just take a credit and roll. So what is your experience? What is your experience with waterfront property? What is your experience? What is your experience with oil heat? And again, that's one of those open-ended questions that they have to give you a response with. This one is good in the current market and also the recent markets we've been through. How would you feel if? How would you feel if you lost this house because of lack of an escalation or not a large enough earnest money deposit? That's come into play here recently for us. It's like, I don't want a 5,000 earnest money deposit. I want a 10,000 earnest money deposit. All right. You know, how would you feel if something did or didn't happen? This is one, again, from Phil Jones that I have found very, very helpful. Um, because we've often talked a lot of times about how, buyers will talk about things a certain way, and then, we're understanding things in a certain way. They always tell us the buyers want 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car garage. But then they start asking you questions about houses with no garage or houses with 3 bedrooms, not four. And so you need to see where their mind is. And so often I'll say, help me understand. All right, so you said you wanted 4 bedrooms. You're sending me listings off of Zillow with 3 bedrooms. Help me understand what the change is there. What is your motivation for looking at? Well, we thought a fourth bedroom might be nice for a guest room, but we don't really need it. We don't have a lot of guests that come through. I'm like, okay, well, you're moving to Virginia Beach. That may change the guest visiting quotient there. So, help me understand, where would your family be visiting you from? Oh, we live in Ohio. It's like they're coming to Virginia Beach, right? You definitely want that fourth bedroom for a guest room or some plan for how to accommodate them. But I use that a lot. Help me understand, if they're pushing back on pricing or they're pushing back on whatever, help me understand what your line of thinking is in this, or help me understand what you're hearing from the neighbors about what's going on with real estate of the neighborhood. Because that puts them in the driver's seat, right? They're the intelligent ones. They have all the knowledge at that point, right? Because they know something you don't. And just asking them for clarification, help me understand, what this is, kind of thing. Another help phrase is, would it help if I ran different numbers for you? Would it help if we went to see some of the competition? I've done this with sellers before. We have 5 other homes in the neighborhood. Would it help if I arranged a time for us to go see those competing listings before we go on the market? Right. And I've had that work both ways. I've had it help me and I've had it hurt me. Right. We've gone to see competing listings and it's like, these are a lot nicer than what we are. Right. So that's helped me to say, you have a little bit more work to do to get up to this price that you want. It's also hurt me. It's like, okay, well, these aren't nearly as nice. And I was an idiot and I didn't price it appropriately. So now we need to go up in price. And, it's all a matter of how you respond to things. So, even though internally I may be feeling like an idiot, I'm like, okay, Well, I'm glad we saw these because now we know that we're nicer than these other listings. And it also strengthens your credibility with other agents, doesn't it? When they say, oh, well, I'm looking at the numbers. I just don't see how your listing is worth 10,000 more. Like, oh, well, have you been in the one down the street? Because it has shag carpeting and smells like mold. Have you been in the 1-2 cul-de-sacs over? Because, we just looked at a listing today. Their backyard is like 6 inches wide and then slopes down at a 90-degree angle into a ditch, and so they may not be knowledgeable of those things because all they're looking at is the data in rain. They're not looking at the property live and in person. Um, for Chris Voss and Never Split the Difference, one of his things is how you say things. And I know it's easy when we're talking with our clients, especially on the phone, to get spun up with them, and your voice gets higher and higher and maybe louder and louder, and your cadence gets faster and faster. Chris Voss talks about the late night radio DJ voice, right? You slow it down, you drop an octave or two, and then you start asking your questions. How would you feel if you lost this house because you didn't go 5,000 more on the escalation price? Right? And you don't have to get all, what was the radio show for years? Was it Layla? What was her show?
Oh, Delilah.
Delilah,
Yes.
yes. Delilah After Dark. Thank you for that. I knew someone was at least my age. Uh, so, slow it down. I mean, you don't have to get all sultry like a radio host, but just slow the conversation down, drop an octave to calm things down, and, then start asking the questions. Especially if you have a client that's, you have to peel off the ceiling, right? Our job here, and this is another phrase that I use a lot, our job with our clients is to reduce the stress as much as we can, right? And that's another line I use, right? One of my top jobs as your realtor is to reduce the stress as much as I can. Buying and selling a house, moving, and of course we all have clients that they're moving, they're getting married, and they're having a baby all at the same time, right? Or they're getting divorced and like everything all at once. So we tell them, like, part of our job is to help reduce the stress. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be stressful. I can't eliminate the stress, but I can help reduce it. If you don't know what to do, call me. If it's not my job, I know whose job it is, and we will farm it out to them, right? Oh, that's the lender's job. That's the attorney's job. Oh, this is, on the home inspector, or, let's get a handyman over here to fix this. You don't have to worry about this. I've got you covered. I'm here to help you reduce stress, kind of thing. But yeah, if you have to peel them off the ceiling, just slow it down, calm it down, make it a little quiet, and then you can ask some of those questions, right? Who remembers Steve Woodruff, the real estate guru from maybe about 10 or 15 years ago? Kathy and Lori, I think maybe you all are familiar with them. One of his favorite lines I use is, I'm here to help you make good real estate decisions, right? I can't do all the deciding for you, but I'm here to help you make good real estate decisions. I've adapted that a little bit in recent years to, I want you to feel comfortable with the real estate decisions you're making. And I've found that to be helpful, because it's not a perfect process, right? A lot of times our clients are not ecstatic with the home they've bought or the way the listing and sales process have gone. They've achieved their goal, but it's not been like, oh my God, this was the easiest thing ever. But if you tell them, I want you to feel comfortable with this, they'll then understand that, okay, you've reduced my stress. I do feel good about this decision. I feel comfortable in it. This wasn't the most exciting and happiest time of my life, but I'm comfortable with the decisions we've made, right? And that's a nice base level. And if you sort of set that expectation of, I want you to feel comfortable about making these decisions, that then opens the door for them to let you guide them on some of the warm and fuzzy stuff, right? I'll often talk with buyers about, I want you to like the home that you purchase. And if it doesn't feel like home, you got to tell me, right? Because a home can check off all the boxes, right? You give me all these criteria and you say, I want 4 bedrooms, I want 2.5 baths, I want a nice deck on the yard, I want it backing to trees. It checks off all the boxes logically and independently. We say, this is the house, it fits the budget, it checks off all the criteria, it's where you want to be. But if it doesn't feel comfortable to the buyer, right? We've all been in houses like that where it's like, this is a great house, but I'm just not feeling it, right? We want to allow them that option of just saying, I'm not feeling it. And then you can go back and say, well, help me understand what you're not feeling about it. And if it's something related to cosmetics, I'm just not feeling it. Well, help me understand that. What do you mean when you say you're just not feeling it? Well, I don't like tan carpet. You can replace carpet, I don't like the way the light comes in the window. Put curtains up,
Yeah.
I mean, so
Overcoming objections, basically.
you're handling some of the objections, and sometimes you can work around that. But if they're, and some people are more sensitive to these things, if they're just feeling weird feelings in the house, fine, we're out. If you think there might be bad juju in the house, okay, right? I want you to feel comfortable about making this decision. What are some other expressions? This is the interactive portion, because I want to hear from you guys. What are some other phrases that you've heard or things that maybe have backfired? Because that's always fun. I've had lots of things backfire on me.
I'm still trying to do that Bay Island thing. And we talked last week and I said, this is one of the biggest investments selling that house that you've ever made. You built that house with your own 2 hands for the most part. They found the empty lot, they built the house. And now, it's my goal is to help you make this a smooth transition through whether it's an next door neighbor buying it or we just list it, but you've got to keep it. Maybe I'm going a little overboard. I'm trying to take some of what you just said, bring it down a notch, maybe meet them for dinner or drinks one night and just say, I'm here to help you make good real estate decisions and keep it solid because I mean.
Well, and maybe even use help me understand, right? Help me understand what your line of thinking is in this process. And and be prepared for some brutal honesty in that, and that's with any of these questions, at all, be prepared to get your feelings hurt, right? It's not going to happen every time.
I am.
But unless you're prepared to have your feelings hurt, it's going to hurt a whole heck of a lot, right? There have been times, especially early on in my career, where my feelings got hurt and I questioned why the hell I'm doing this. Why do I put up with this kind of rejection and the way people talk to me? And I'm just going to hang it up. I'm going to go back to construction because I can swing a hammer all day long. And, if someone's going to talk to me that way, I can swing a hammer at them. But when you get over yourself and you realize, okay, they're hurting in some fashion, it's not anything that I have done specifically. And if it is something you've done, own up to it, apologize, make it right, and move on. But when you're prepared for people to be angry with you for whatever reason, you're going to be a lot better off. And a lot of times they're angry, it's directed at you, but they're not angry at you, right? That's what I get a lot of, is that they're frustrated with some portion of the process. And I need to ask them, help me understand where your frustration is coming from. And sometimes it's things that I said, or they misinterpreted things in the contract or whatever. It's like, I don't know. All right, let's start over. Let's explain everything from step one all the way to this point, and let's clarify and see how we can make this right. But yeah, I mean, I get a lot of people that I'm like, bring it on, yell at me. It's going to make you feel better. Just yell at me. Okay, now here, let's go and find a solution, kind of thing. Because I've done this enough and so long that, like, for the most part, I know that I've done nothing wrong. Because if I do, I catch it and I admit it quickly. But I know if I've dotted all of my I's and crossed all of my T's, that the process should be what the process is, and they're frustrated, right? They're emotional, they're stressed. This is their home of how many ever years, this is where their children grew up, or this is where they grew up, or whatever. And so we got to unpack that, right? And that's where that help me understand phrase comes in very helpful, right? And then when you propose alternative things to them, it's like, I'm not sure if it's for you, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Kind of thing. For some of the more seasoned folks on the call, I'd love to hear some of your winning phrases and words that you've used that have helped over the years. Jenny, do you have anything that comes to mind?
One of the things that you and I use a lot is the word reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Reasonable.
a reasonable request. That's a reasonable question. That's a reasonable outcome.
We use it a lot with home inspections on the seller side, right? Remember, we get the PICRA for your seller, and it's like 3 pages long. And the first thing we do when we see a dense PICRA like that is like, oh my God, who the hell are these people? So we keep that inside, right? We never use our outside voices, or we don't use our inside voices on the outside, kind of thing. So then we take it over to our sellers and, like, here's everything. It looks like a lot. Some of these are reasonable requests. And request is another word that we use, right? We're never telling them they're compelled to make some of these repairs until we talk about, like, walkthrough items and safety items. It's like, some of these are reasonable requests. Some we can probably kick back, right? And we slow it down, take the tone, the octave down a notch. It's like, these are reasonable requests. We can probably kick back some of them. The way they have this written, it looks like a lot, but if you combine 1, 7, and 9, that's an electrician. If you combine 2, 3, and 11, that's a plumber. And then they become smaller items, right? Because, like, okay, we instead of having a list of 17 things we have to fix, it's more reasonable now that we have 5 people that need to come to the house, as opposed to 17 different people. And let's get quotes, kind of thing. Reasonable is a word we use a lot. Equitable is another word we use a lot, especially when I'm talking with buyers about how to ask for things with the home inspection. We want to look for equitable repairs, right? What is going to be reasonable, equitable, fair, right? And then I will often categorize them, like, first and foremost, health and safety, right? If there's mold, if there's a potential fire hazard, let's get that knocked out. Property preservation is the next one, right? Is there a leak somewhere that we need to preserve the property and make sure it's not doing any further damage? Then it's functionality of the house, which usually encompasses walkthrough items. Is the garbage disposal not working? Is a burner on the stove not working, right? Those are not crises, but it's part of a function of a house. And then we get into the nice to have stuff, right? That's all the gotta have. Then we get into the nice to have. It'd be nice to have a new GFCI in a 1970s kitchen, right? It wasn't required at the time. It's not technically deemed out of code or a fire hazard because it wasn't required at the time the house was built, but it would be nice to have. So, maybe that's something that we can add in if we have the electrician coming for other things. What are some other phrases?
Just piggyback with on that phrase I just learned about a home inspection resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Resolution.
That was Sherry Johnson, right? Yeah.
Instead of a home
High competition.
instead of a home inspection contingency, removal, a home inspection resolution.
And I like that word resolution.
Yeah.
Um, you know, because we can use that in a lot of ways, right? We're looking for a resolution to HOA or condo doc questions, right? We're not just looking for answers, we're looking for resolution, right? Well, you know, I had one in Green Run. Imagine that, a problem in Green Run with the HOA, where the fence wasn't done with the HOA's approval, right? We don't need answers, right? Because we know it's like, fence is wrong. Fence was technically right, but we just didn't do the right process. So now we're looking for a resolution, right? We're not looking for a fix. We're not looking for answers. We're not looking for a remedy, which is another word for fix. We're looking for resolution. You know, how do we take care of this in the best way, right? So yeah, so thanks Sherry Johnson for that one, for resolution. I hope you all are taking notes. I'm taking notes too. Any other winning words that you all have heard or use?
Mhm.
One that I think is going to come back into vogue is another Steve Woodruff expression about pricing a home. We want to price your home just right so that we're not pricing it too low. And you got to use the hand signals for this too. We're not pricing it too low so that we give your home away. But we're also not pricing it too high and scare buyers away. Right? That's a Steve Woodruffism. We want to price your home just right so that we're not pricing it too low to give your home away. And we're not pricing it too high and scare buyers away. Um, there's another real estate guru out there. Has a book, I can't remember. Oh, it's The Agent's Edge, I think. Yeah, The Agent's Edge by Jordan Cohen. I've been using one of his phrases a lot, and he's one of these LA superstar agents. Like, you know, his favorite client is Sylvester Stallone. When he talks about pricing a property, he gets excited about it and he says, we want to price this in such a way and market your home in such a way that you get your price or better for your home. And I like that because the issue we're up against now is some of these prices are moderating within certain neighborhoods, and we're not looking at, you know, the next house on the market goes up, the next house on the market goes up, things like that. So people are actually, I mean, we have a lot of older homes coming on the market now that need some work. So they're not going to generate top dollar for the neighborhood if it's stuck in 1970 and has functional obsolescence in a pool that the motor doesn't, where the pump doesn't work on it. So, you know, we have to talk about pricing homes right. And when you use that phrase of your price or better, they often forget what their price was as you go through the conversation, right? They just hear or better, right? So then we can say, okay, so I think our price, right? Because now it goes from your price to our price. I think our price needs to be $375. And that gets us at your price or better. And you go on the market at $375. They wanted $400 for it in the beginning of the conversation. But now your price or better, all they hear is the or better. And they say, okay, well, we go with this price and we might get bid up on it. We might get to 400 on escalation. We may get more, right? And the or better also encompasses terms, right? So it's not always about the money, right? Sometimes it's about a flexible closing date. Sometimes it's about fewer contingencies. So that's also part of the or better. And that's Jordan Cohen, The Agent's Edge. And that's a great book. It's also a great read on or listen on Audible. What are some other phrases? What are some problematic phrases? What are some phrases that maybe we can recraft and retool? Any problems with explaining things to people?
No, I just, when you just mentioned that phrase changing commission to compensation, I think that's
Mhm.
huge. I really think that's huge because it's already kind of been, my opinion is that a lot of people now, oh, I'm just going to sell it myself. Da, da, da. You know, when you're discussing, instead of saying commission, like, oh, I'm just after a sale, compensation for a job I'm getting ready to do for 45 days for you, you know?
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's just one, it's not directly related to either listing the house, but yeah, compensation instead of commission is the new thing, I guess. And I think it's the best word as well.
Well,
And
compensation,
yeah, I
professional
learned
fee
that
for
from
service,
professional fees,
a
compensation. Yeah.
professional fee.
It's hard to stop saying commission too, trust me, you know.
Well, believe me, I've been doing this 20 years,
Yeah,
so it's always been
right.
commission. But it's one of those things, again, you know, kind of like that late night radio DJ. If you slow the language down for yourself, just to slow it down, that gives your brain a little bit more time to catch up. And it's kind of like when we were in school and reading a book out loud kind of thing. You see the words coming up. It's like, oh, this is where we say commission. It's like, oh no, I need to change this. And so your brain has a few minutes to sort of catch up. Like, okay, here comes that commission word. I would need to make sure I say compensation, kind of thing. Or you're reading a ticker tape on the display in Times Square in New York. You see the word coming. It's like, oh, we're not using commission, we're using compensation, right? Brian Buffini also says, don't use the inside language on the outside, right? And I've stopped using, well, I've struggled for years with PICRA, right? Because we all know what PICRA is. And it's the professional, or it's the property inspection contingency removal addendum, which is a mouthful to say and or type to your clients in an email. So I've just started calling it the repair addendum, right? Here's the repair addendum from the buyer. You know, here's, you know, some highlights from it. They have some reasonable requests on this. Another I use a lot for my clients, especially in trying to explain price reduction or you know, an offer with a lower price, or you know, asking for everything in the home inspection. I'll often say, you know, I don't blame them. You don't get if you don't ask. I would do the same thing if I was representing you and ask for a little bit more than we think than we deserve, just so that we have some negotiating power, right? You don't get if you don't ask. I don't blame them.
I just had a situation where I had a dentist and his wife, they just signed a buyer broker with me, and they saw the 3%, and that is our compensation. I said, that is what my fees are. And they said, we would like to change that to 1%. And I called the dentist and I said, I just have a quick question for you. If I needed a crown, would you accept a third of the fee from me? I said, because that's what you're asking me to do. And if I can't negotiate my worth to you, you really don't want me as your agent. And anybody that will roll over, you don't want them as your agent. But they're out there and you can
Yes.
get an agent at 1%. I would strongly urge you to be very cautious with your largest investment in your portfolio if an agent is willing to roll over, because that means that's how he or she is going to negotiate on your behalf. That my fee is 3%.
What kind of response did you get?
Was it like pulling teeth, Kathy?
We agreed that I did come down a little bit. We did agree that if there is zero seller compensation, that and I talked to Tina first, that would reduce our
Bravo.
compensation to 2.5. With
Okay.
zero seller.
That's reasonable, Jenny says.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they wanted to feel like they were getting something, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Which,
Sure.
Everybody wants that.
Sure. And we all know, and I've done this with my dentist, that they do have a little wiggle room on their end.
yeah,
It's like, I just can't afford $5,000 right now for this.
Yeah.
They're like, well, look, I'll take 500 off.
yes, yes,
Will that make it better? Like, okay, I can probably swing that. You don't do it every time because that's, you want them to buy the new boat. Um, but you can negotiate a little bit with them. But yeah, I mean, that's a great way to go back to them on that. And even if they're not in the medical profession, we can talk to because all of our clients have gone to the doctor at some point. Like, look, if you needed surgery, would you shop around till you found a discount surgeon?
or would
know,
you go to Rite Aid and try to self-medicate instead? Because,
Right.
That's not going to work. And I tell people, if you're charged with a felony, chances are you're not going to show up to court and represent yourself because that is your freedom on the line. Well,
Mhm.
gambling with your largest investment for most of us in our portfolio. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem wise. And I think you nailed it, Jeremy. It's not what we say, it's how we say it, how we present
Absolutely.
it, to give people analogies that are relatable either to their field or their life, that they're like, the light bulb goes off. And he's like, oh my God, Kathy, I hope we didn't offend you. No, you didn't offend me. I just want to let you know that that's what my fee is.
Right. And I'll be by on Friday for my free crown. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My crown at a third of the price.
You know, yeah. And that's just, because in this era of real estate we're in, I think is going to be, for lack of a better expression, where the rubber meets the road for the pros in real estate, right? We're all professionals, but the next level up is to be a pro, right? And we need to get away from, at an ever increasing rate and with ever alarming necessity, we need to get away from the used car salesperson pallor that we have on us, this view that people have of us, right? And there's going to be some negotiation in everything we do going forward. But we can't focus completely on the numbers.
Yes.
Right.
And sometimes you need somebody to bounce it off of. I mean, immediately I called Tina, and being Tina, she answered her phone. And I was like, this is what just happened. And I can't take credit for the crown because she said it. She was like,
Right.
really? So if you went to get your crown, so sometimes we just need to take a step back and just phone a friend, phone somebody at the office and be like, hey, can I bounce this off of you? Because this is not working for me.
Yeah. And we do this all the time. I know, Kathy, you and I have talked numerous times, like, okay, I know you've had this situation. How did you handle it? What
Yeah.
did you say? And we've done this for years, and we do this here in the office as well. And I'll even call other agents at other firms that I have a personal relationship with. I'm not going to just call some random person. But if I know that Jennifer Cool has had a client like this, or dealt with this builder, or sold in this neighborhood, or if Allison McCarthy or someone like that in Kings Grant, who's a neighborhood expert, like, okay, let me call this person because I know they have experience with this, bounce this off of them for a marketing idea or whatever, because they're a friend. I'll do that all the time, get advice like, okay, I don't sell in this neighborhood every day, but you do. So let me bounce something off of you. And more often than not, they're happy to help. But especially here in the office, if you have questions, you can call any of us, and especially call your broker. If it involves numbers or money, call your broker, and say, okay, I just got hit with this. What does this mean? How do I respond? Kind of thing. And the problem that we're going to have as agents is that a lot of times we're going to be in positions where we desperately need the business, right? We've all been in that position of like, I am pretty much done for the year unless I get new business in the pipeline, right? And it's May. You don't want to be done with your year in May. So you may need to, excuse me, have some conversations and, talk to some people and say, okay, I really want to sell them a house, but I can't work for 1% or 2% or whatever. How do I work around this? And, we'll help you craft language for these buyer broker agreements because it's sticky right now. But learning how to negotiate is going to be critical in this new era of real estate. And so I don't know if we have the real estate negotiation expert class coming back to Hurrah this year, but that's a good class. I think ABR has some negotiating in it. And of course, the ABR class is free online through the end of the year. So go ahead and take that if you haven't. You just find that at nar.realtor. But yeah, just whatever you can do to become the market expert, learn how to talk to and with people, and find new ways of saying things. There's a book out there, Crucial Conversations, which is great. I recommend that book. Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones, and Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents by Phil Jones is good. The Agent's Edge by Jordan Cohen is good. And then another one that comes to mind is The Full Fee Agent, which is by Chris Voss and Steve Shull, Shull. The Full Fee Agent is Steve Shull takes Chris Voss's principles from Never Split the Difference and applies them to real estate, which is awesome. So I recommend those very much. And I'll pop all of those in an email to everyone here, as well as in our Facebook group, so that you can look at those, because there's some great books, very easy reads. And again, this is going to be a market where, for the next at least 5 years and really for the rest of your career, you're going to have to be constantly trying to be the smartest person in the room. And that's going to require you going to classes, reading everything you can, attending sales meetings, come to these trainings, go to Sherry Johnson's trainings. When you get the Let's Get Real emails from Patrick Bain, sign up for those things, because you learn a lot about what's going on within the company as well as what's going on in the industry there. If Hurrah has a class or a seminar, go to that, because this is the time where we really need to set ourselves apart. And if you want to survive the next 2 to 5 years and be here for the next 2 to 5 years after that, it's going to be all out, everything you got starting today. All right, that's my soapbox for today.
Kindly.
So I appreciate you all joining us. I don't have it in my brain right now what our next class is, but we will push that out to you. If you have any topics that you would like covered, including some of the tools we use, anything from RAIN, let me know, and I can always add that into the hopper and put it on the schedule at some point when it makes sense. And as always, we are here to help.
Hey, Jeremy,
Yes, ma'am.
you had sent out an example of a buyer broker with the new form of how you do it. Is there any way that with the new forms now for our listings, like there's the exclusive right to represent the seller, and then there's the addendum, or if they're going to offer compensation?
Okay.
Is there any way we could get an example to make sure that we're filling out those new forms correctly?
Yeah, how about let's aim for the next class. We'll go over that, and I'll have some pre for you so that you can see what we're doing.
Thank you.
Honestly, since we've had the new forms, I haven't had a new listing, so I need to go through it myself. So
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you again. Always.
Thank you all very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great
Have a
day.
great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.